on a victory. They must be feeling a bit more confidence. Confidence is definitely an important part of play and, well, getting better and going into your next round. Crest Gaming Act are going to be licking their wounds from Super Week, remember, as they were the last game of the day and they lost against Axis at the end. Showing upsets are all around, right?
It's variance.
But this is CGA for you. This is the team that took the first win off V3 this split. That was massive. These guys have got it in them to take down the best in our league. They also have it in them to lose to the 0-8, to a team that was formerly 0-8, I think they were 1-9 or something at that point. But, like, the point being that CGA have a brilliance to them, but that brilliance is sometimes quite one-dimensional. And the other way you can punish them is, say that bot lane, they love to fight, you go in at them, that brilliance can really quickly turn into a big polished turd.
That's one way. That's okay. That's an interesting South Park reference. Go right. I'll take it. I'll take it. Anytime I can get South Park, I'll always take it. Initialize Nightmare. Let's just go and rip off this band-aid now, and better sooner rather than later. Who do we think is going to win this match? Crest Gaming Act or Detonation Focus?
I think it's going to be CGA. I think that they've shown that their form right now is really, really good. I am worried.
They just lost to Axis, though.
Yeah, I agree with that. But the game before that, they just beat V3, as far as I'm aware.
Well,
you know,
they're
3-1. They beat the Jesters.
They beat the Jesters.
Oh, okay. So maybe
the day before.
Ooh. But literally the day before, they just beat up V3. And that's a really big thing. I think that they have been shown to have this weakness, but I'm not sure I trust DFM yet to punish them on it.
I agree. I think. I will say if it was on if it was on a one-game sample size, the last game from each of these squads, it would be a different way around.
Sure.
That said, I need to see more out of DFM before I am confident giving them an advantage versus CGA.
That's what I think. It's just the confidence.
It's not that I don't think DFM have ways into this game, and we've already talked about some of the ways that CGA can put themselves in binds. That said, I still give credit to CGA.
So who's winning?
CGA.
Okay, there we go. I'm gonna flip a coin. Heads. It's CGA. CGA heads, tails. Does CGA have to win? Their coin flip. They're gonna coin flip their way to this victory. I can't see it going any other way. If you're not sure what I'm referencing, go listen to our podcast, episode 25 of the podcast. Oh, I'll find a plug anywhere and everywhere. But gentlemen, I think it's about time that we remove me from the conversation and just have you two chatting about the pick and ban phase, so I don't keep flipping more coins. I actually kind of want to flip more coins. Anyway, regardless, as this is a blast from the past, I will simply go in 3, 2, 1. Take it away, gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Masked Swan. We are here into Game 2 today for the LJL Summer Split. Last week of play, we are in Week 7. DFM taking to the rift for the second time today, but they are versus Crest Gaming App for the first time today. And CGA will be taking on the blue side with Nat, Unica, Arya, Gango, and Grendel making up their roster.
And that would be the Detective Pikachu, which, of course, the card game of Pokemon does have a lot of
coin flips. I was going to go that way, yes!
Everything comes together, and everything came together for DFM on the red side last game. It's Ebby, Steel, Seros, Utpon, and Gang, as we've been saying, chasing that first win versus a top 4 team, of which they are currently not in the top 4. They were overtaken by Burning Core. I think they've actually just drawn level with them that last win, I think. So DFM looking to finally punch above their weight.
Yeah, and you can.
Oh, a Karma ban on blue side again.
Karma, Camille, and Galio all taken away. They know what DFM like to go towards, and they've taken them all away. And the Camille game in the last one was a bit of a statement, but it is that set first pick we are seeing again. Yes, it's super flexible, and we have seen it around. It's definitely a viable first pick, but it's not Karma. I know that something's irritating you.
Karma should always be a red side ban, not a blue side ban. It's a first pick worthy champion. You gotta deny that. DFM on the other side go, we don't care. We're going to ban away 3 Arya champions, the TF, the Silas, and the Zoe. They lock in a Bard very early for Gang, which makes me think that they want to be able to punish whatever AD carry Gango comes up with and be able to dive 5 bot lane.
Great takeaway from Nap, or Grendel rather, as well.
And I'm surprised that CJ don't immediately lock up themselves the Ashe. They're going with Aphelios Leona right off the bat.
I mean, that is a lot of wombo combo. We hit level 6, you throw down both ultimates and people can definitely fall apart. If I'm hovering that Fiddlesticks, it was flirted with when the rework came in the LJL, but it never really saw much play. It'll be the Ezreal lock-in for Utapon, and of course, Ezreal Bard, level 1, pretty damn strong.
Very mobile, easy to get away from Leona with the Arcane Shift.
Yeah.
It's a safety bot lane. However, the Bard is never completely safe. If he's completely stunned out by the Leona, you can't Magical Journey out of there because you're CC'd.
And it'll be a 4th ban towards Arya. I see the plan here.
I mean, he has so many champions which he can run over a game with. It looks like... I'm trying to think exactly what they're going towards with these bans. Of course, the Zoe, the Silas, the Echo can all take really hard trades, and the TF opens up the map so much. It's the highest mid laner present on the patch. It's been like an 88% presence a week or two ago. And that is 5 Arya bans. What does he go to now? Is he left with the Akali? Is he going to go back and pick up a Syndra or something, which he played the one time? He's played Cassidy in this split. He could go back towards a number of different champions, but there's so much been removed already.
There's a lot of Arya champion sounds, but there's still quite a lot of Seros champions up. I'm noting the Heimerdinger and the Ziggs are still available. He does like both of those, and a lot of those picks will probably work quite well into a Heimerdinger or a Ziggs, so perhaps looking towards something like that. Ziggs is banned away. Don't want to see that in the game. Heimerdinger's still up, which is the kind of that third of the trifecta
or
with the Karma.
AP Cogmore.
Yeah,
they are
the
giving counterpick to Seros. Okay, in fairness, if you want to red side versus CGA, this is the way you do get a good mid lane matchup. You just deny everything you can from Arya and then leave yourself a counterpick. So you see the composition. Lots of brawling front line, but with enough engaged potential from the likes of a Trundle Pillar setting up for a Bard stun, that it can get a little bit awkward.
Volibear's not bad either, as sort of some additional soft engage there.
I have to say,
Trundle's pretty good.
Trundle has a lot of options to tank shred now. So many.
Yeah, and the reason you pick Trundle into Ornn is basically because Ornn then is no longer tanky, he's just sort of ore. He loses about half of who he is. That would be a very aggressive pick. It would be very AD heavy. But instead, go towards the Azir here. It's backline AP damage. It's good DPS, good disengage. The Teemo mid would be a statement, but I doubt it.
Yeah, okay. We'll get over those in a second. I like this Azir. I think that Arya will still have to play very carefully because you can get ganked by the Volibear, and the Bard ult is always going to be an issue. He's hovering over this Heimerdinger again. It is locked in. The last time I remember seeing the Azir Heimerdinger matchup was in that Sengoku DFM finals from last split. That was when Pyrion and Blank did really well at ganking Seros because he was over pushing on that Heimerdinger and he just got shuffled into this jungler. But then the jungling, then when it came back to kind of like pairing up with the jungler and going to objectives and stuff, Seros was very good at zoning out and taking big objectives.
And again, this is kind of how Seros likes to play the Heimerdinger, is go for the turret. And that's great, but of course, you don't have any dashes on Heimerdinger, and if you get ganked, even through your turrets, which is always an interesting thing to navigate as a jungler. God, I love smiting turrets. It's the only way through that thing. You can get shuffled in the tower, and the Heimerdinger is a bit sad then.
For sure. Seros, what he does quite uniquely on the Heimerdinger is find ways to solo push on side lanes when his team's also engaged somewhere else on the map, and then teleport in to do a great many things. He's been very effective at doing that, and it gives him huge farm advantages, and something in the games which CGA do is, even if they commit to loads of hard fights, is that if you have people in side lanes farming up, you are losing out in overall gold because you're not picking up as many waves as the enemy team.
Alright, so we can see the rosters. It's pretty standard globally, actually, for CJ. Nothing super crazy on that roster, maybe outside of Leona, which is a slightly newer tech, has only been seeing rise in priority in recent weeks. But otherwise, pretty straightforward front to back, fair amount of engage, good backline DPS. Little bit different for DFM, though. I see a lot of zoning and backline DPS from Heimerdinger and Ezreal, really. They're trying to zone control around objectives.
So I think I'm of the opinion that Heimerdinger is really good into Aphelios, because you put down the turrets and you have to walk through them. Aphelios never gets into range to DPS the Heimerdinger unless there has been such an absurd amount of CC, and of course there's a lot of magic damage too, which means that the Aphelios, with his very, very low base magic resist, does take a lot of damage from that champion pick.
I mean, I know we've seen it picked into Aphelios in the LCK.
Yeah,
for that reason. I can't remember, I think it's Doc, I forget his full name.
Deft picked it.
Deft picked it, another, there was one of the newer teams as well.
Prince?
Yeah, it was the AD carry, who I forget the name. Woodid was super excited to see it, of course, because he used to lane. Yes.
Yeah.
Used to lane with Yarnan and stuff, who of course was a big Heimerdinger player in the bot lane.
Huge Heimerdinger. He was arguably the best Heimerdinger player in the world for a bit.
Yeah, he was very
He
very
beat
good.
Uzi on that pick.
That's kind of insane looking back, really. It still is insane. Either way, Heimerdinger pretty good into Aphelios, and you can kind of match the zone control of soldiers from Azir as well, which is quite nice.
It is that, and then the other thing is that you have Trundle into Bard combo. You pillar behind someone, the Cosmic Binding comes out, and you get the immediate stun. So if Aphelios walks up to try and DPS the Heimerdinger, gets pillared, gets stunned by the Cosmic Binding, and then Ezreal is always there in range to put out damage because his follow-up is so very strong. I'm liking this comp from DFM. It's not your traditional deny the team fight from CGA though, so will they just find a way to team fight their way back into the game? Because Nap has his own. Azir is on the table too. Lots of late game DPS.
There's the playmaking you need. That said, it is always a possibility with CGA when all you do is fight, is you look for fights and you just lose more. You keep fighting and you just keep losing. It's a tried and true thing. Look to Invictus Gaming when they were slumping earlier in the year. It happened a lot, guys. It happened a lot. We're here with team stats, though. Run me through some ones you're really interested in here.
So we know DFM have a really strong early game that comes through in their gold difference and their XP difference. That's kind of the opposite to be said of CGA. But where does this really get telling? For me, it's actually in the assists. Because if you have high assist numbers, it means that you're getting a lot of kills, yes, which means that your assists come through. But it means you're getting a lot of assists on a lot of different people. CGA get their kills when they are grouped up, when they have these team fights. DFM, as you can see, being 7th out of 8th in the table, is that they are probably doing it more split. They try and go for the 2v2s, the 3v3s, the 1v1s particularly. Abby having the highest solo kills in the league, even an off split for him, is a very impressive stat. So what I'm looking for here is for DFM to try and put CGA very far behind in the early game and make sure that there is an insurmountable advantage for them, that they cannot team fight their way back into the game. And I think a lot of that, as you've been saying, is potentially put behind that bot lane because you do have that Trundle into Bard combo. We've been talking about that a little bit.
Alright, so we know what the rosters are going to be. Volibear into Ornn as well. It's not a bad matchup for the Volibear. Does a decent amount of tank shredding, does Volley with some okay mixed damage and some percent HP shred on the Frenzied Mauls, if I've got the right name correctly there. So, pretty nice setup there. If Steel wants to run up and do some pillars and stuff against Ornn, you can play through that a little bit as well if you want to leave the Ezreal Bard to their own devices. But, always a little bit of a risk to leave Gango and Grendel alone. They are fine when they are left to their 2v2, or playing strong side. They have shown to be pretty poor playing weak side, though. 0-3 in lane in the first few minutes the last time out for that particular bot lane.
Oh, against Axis it was pretty tragic, yeah.
So there is definitely room for some tactical running it down bot.
And that's exactly the emote to use to describe that. This is fine. Soraka just sitting in the burning room. Honestly, that has been Utopon's split. That's kind of it that. I've been very outspoken about the fact that this guy has been very consistent for his team. The same cannot be said of the rest of his team. That's quite interesting. What Gang has done there is he's started W. He started that heal.
Yes. Healing Shrines.
I'm trying to remember if that's the W or the E. He started the Healing Shrines, and he's left them below bot lane there, recalled immediately, got all his mana back, and because they last on the ground for pretty much for forever, it means that they can take hard trades early. I mean, the Aphelios and the Leona can very much do that. You lose the level 1 trading potential from your Cosmic Binding, as we've been saying, but you do have that ability to regen up. That's quite a unique take on the situation. I like that.
It's been done a few times in the LCS as well. I know obviously Aframu does it on Bard. It's something he's a huge old school player of that champion, but he does
one of the very first.
But he does it in mid lane. Basically puts them in mid lane before, and so basically his laner can trade super hard with Corrupting Pot as well.
It looks like he's done that too. He's put one there for Heimerdinger.
There you go. So just trade super hard early on. Can use your health bar as a
no, that's a turret. That's a turret. That's not it. I was like, that's a red dot on the map. That's the same as the shrines. Nope, does exactly the same thing there. Turns out you don't actually need Cosmic Binding. You just
auto people.
Oh, lethal tempo.
My days. That's a lot of work coming out there. Yeah, lethal tempo on Ezreal, getting those autos out, and Gango down to half HP. Of course, you start with Severum in I'm gonna call it inventory. Equipped, maybe.
Your loadout.
Loadout, yeah. We're Call of Duty now, boys.
Yes. Well, I mean, or Halo nowadays, too.
Yeah, that's true, that.
It's been a long time since Halo didn't have those.
Maybe he's hit level 2 first up here. Did get slowed down, but still going to find the Thundering Smash and the Sky Split. That's a big trade with the Press the Attack coming through as well. And that takes a hefty trade there versus the Volibear.
And it is, of course, worth mentioning that Trundle was set into the jungle and the Volibear was sent top. It is the that Freljordian Demigod matchup in the top lane, and Nap is not taking the best of those trades so far.
Nice early ward, very far down the river. Knows he wants to be aware of Set running in as early as possible. Steel will now clear out his third camp, gets that large wolf, and will start roaming down to see whether he can find something like a scuttle crab.
There's a ping out to the Raptors.
The Raptors, exactly.
So he has 3 pushing lanes, which does open up ganking options for Unica, but Unica has not been the most successful ganking jungler in the LJL. Still has not gone to take any of his topside camps besides that red buff, so potentially Unica could go towards that. But with the scuttle spawning in 5 seconds, it looks like Steel is going to get himself a camp lead because Unica has not found his time to get over to the enemy jungle.
Zenith Blade lands onto Gang, and that's always a bit of a risk, but now Steel coming in behind this Azir, gets the pillar, might force the shuffle, but I think it's been used already, and actually does get to walk away. Big stun from Seros, but the trade back from the soldiers was pretty good as well.
What Arya was trying to do there was save his mana. I don't know if the E was used. I'd imagine it wasn't, but just using that W into E combo is just such a large amount of mana, and you can already see he's really low on that. He's probably going to have to TP in already, try and at least trade that for the Heimerdingers. But after that, he uses the mana he saved from that combo to try and trade back onto the Heimerdinger, and ends up getting trade back onto even harder. Seros doing pretty well in this early lane. Of course, a little bit of help there from Steel in terms of making sure that he can be held accountable, but still, good from Seros.
Gang finding Unica, does get a stun down, going to look for a little bit more, Steel running forwards, but nothing much to be found. Scuttlecrab will be secured for Trundle, though. And just a bit of a reminder, guys, there are some pretty hefty stakes here, as Nap once again in bit of bother. Maybe Ornn counts as like demigod stakes.
What?
I don't know. Like he's not really human looking.
No. Ornn is friend, not food.
Not to Volibear. Not to Volibear. Volibear is definitely not in that
very
mindset.
Angry person. Volibear
Very
is.
Angry Volibear. He's got a lot of swords stuck in his back. It's going to make a lot of people angry. It's like acupuncture gone wrong.
Very, very wrong. Turns out it's hit.
Evil acupuncture.
It's like, well, I mean, I don't know a great deal about acupuncture, but you know how it's meant to affect flow of energy.
Yeah, it's just like
maybe it's just made him permanently angry.
Definitely, I think that's exactly what it is. Not gang, sorry.
You know what would also make a lot of people very angry, particularly if you're a Hawks or you are a Burning Core fan.
Thank you for bringing us back there. We
tried.
tried. We
DFM went 1-0. They've already won their first game. They took that game off of Rascal Jester. If they were to win this game, those two teams, which are currently sat, or at least were sat level with DFM or thereabouts, would have to go 2-0 to force a tiebreaker in the playoff seedings between 4th and 6th place. It's really, really important for this playoff standings because, remember, if CGA or Sengoku, because also remember that CGA, were they to lose that, and then maybe go on to lose to Sengoku, there would be at least a tiebreaker there. So if CGA were to win, then lose against Sengoku, there'd be a tiebreaker. If they were to lose both, then they would be straight in 3rd. This would mean that you dodge CJ in the first round of playoffs or Sengoku, right? You dodge one of those two teams, and that could be very, very important. Would you rather face CGA in a best of 5 or Burning Core or the Hawks? Based off of recent form, in terms of the split as a whole, I think you have to take that higher seed.
That's it. It is playoff seedings in mind for both of these squads. DFM want to go 2-0 and try and compete for 4th. CGA would like to retain position in 2nd, but they need to be able to win at least one of their games today to at least force a tiebreaker. Got to start here with DFM, though, and thus far early on, it is that early gold lead to DFM from lane. It's only, that top lane.
It's only 300 gold, and yes, a lot of it is over on Ebby. We know that he's a very strong solo laner, or at least he has been in the past. This split, we have asked questions of that, potentially not as rampant in that early phase as he has been before. The thing is, though, DFM normally have very good early game stats. CJ don't. CJ teamfight their way back into the game. Have DFM reached a point where CGA cannot teamfight? Absolutely not. This is a huge front-to-back teamfight comp from CGA. They have options the entirety of the game. Can DFM either deny them or just outplay them in the teamfights?
What we will see, though, is that Seros managed to get a massive health bar advantage over Arya. Unica had to come over and clear the wave, and that meant it was free chance for DFM to get over and take this first strike with no chance to contest. So DFM, it's not a huge advantage, but it's about 500 gold thus far early on, and they have the first strike. That's nice stuff. Gango and Grendel lying away in this one here. That is the Cosmic Binding use. They're going to go in. The Keen Shift will buy time for Utapon. The Exhaust now down on the Gango who had the Crescendum. And Unica can't get in. Big trade back onto Grendel, though, but it will be support health for support health. And the Exhaust burned for Gang in trade for the Ignite.
It's an exhausted Ignite trade, but it's also going to be Utapon and Gang going to be forced under their own turret. Not quite as important because the Scuttle and Dragon is already gone on the bot side of the map. If that fight had come maybe a minute or two earlier, potentially CGA can look towards that Dragon themselves. It comes at the wrong time, they don't get anything for it. Another strong turret on the top side. Ugh.
Yeah, Sky Splitter doing a lot of work here, trading onto Nap, and it's just zoning the Zorn away from the wave quite a lot. Nap at least has level 6 now, so worst comes to worst, could potentially think about using that Call of the Forge God to clear out, but you can see double Dorans in inventory for Volibear, looking to index into the AP damage. I believe it's the Sky Splitter that has a lot of that scaling right now, and it just does a lot of work versus the Zorn right now, who just hasn't built any armor or magic resistance right here.
But the thing, that's the thing, right? Volibear has so much mixed damage, it's really hard to itemize against him. It's the same reason why Aurelia was very good in that top side of the map when she was reworked on release, right? Of course, a lot of that was also with Conqueror converting a lot of your damage over to true damage, but even then, just the mixed damage makes it very hard to even build something like, oh no, blue buff gets stolen by red buff for Unica, it's no blue buff over to Arya, that potentially loses them pressure in mid lane because the wave clear and the concentrating potential from Tizir is going to be vastly decreased because in the early game, he doesn't have the highest base mana.
He does not. Also, DFM now setting up around this second, or first herald rather, but it's a great stun first onto Grendel, who's going to flash, but it'll be first blood for Steel, who goes for a flash, bonk, and gets the kill. And it's 2 games in a row where DFM managed to get a pick before the herald rather than blindly starting it. They managed to get that one, and they're going to go straight onto it.
Arya goes over to receive the blue buff, which means he can't push the mid lane wave fast enough to have an extra angle to help out his support. Grendel flashes late, Steel follows with that flash Q, as you said, or at least the flash auto, gets the kill, gets the herald. Early game stats for DFM, once again, showing up big.
Alright, well now that's about 1,000 gold lead, and they have first dragon and first herald, and they've got a little while to play around before those plates fall down. You can always see one's gone down in the mid lane after some of that early shoving that we know Seros likes to do on that Heimerdinger. Maybe you could look there. Of course, versus Nazir, not always the best call, and he going to stick a turret straight back up there. But then again, getting that first turret down in mid is always considered a bit of a priority. I know Vedius, for example, really rates that.
Oh, no, it's very big when you have a team which can effectively wave clear it for forever once you get those mana items and those bigger items, which means you just instantly wave clear, right? And once that comes into play and you can't unroot these people, you have to go for big engages. And big engages always bring that risk of losing that fight, and that leads into a lot of other problems of, well, can I now control Dragon or Baron because I just don't have the wave clear, and the priority on the mid lane, that's the word we use of course when the minions are just on the other side of the map, to really control those side objectives. Seros, after getting that assist, after having so much pressure from Steel in the early game because Unique has really found it hard to make an impact, is trading very well into Arya, holding him accountable, and is up about a wave's worth of CS.
This is always a bit of a worry for CGA. What happens when Arya is having a quiet game? Well, they're going to try and turn that around right here. Look for an engage. Seros has to be very, very careful. He's about to get engaged on. He's pushed up very deep. He's got turrets behind him, but he's going to have to flash very carefully. He doesn't get it. That's the solar flare down. Steel is going to be around, but it's too late. The Heimerdinger is dead, and DFM turn up just too late to try and save their mid laner.
Seros doesn't flash out, gets punished for it. CGA find themselves their first good look in this game, and it's off of Grendel, a guy that we have had many comments about, less so in summer than spring. Gengar has to flash out, though, from the other support's ultimate.
Is the Emperor's Divide to buy time in the mid lane?
I don't think that was necessary at all. I think that Arya just kind of wastes his ultimate there. However, Unica gets pushed up. He pushes up in that mid lane, punished by another roam from DFM, another collapse rather. And let's see how this happened. Unica, seen on vision, was the Leona. No, they weren't. It looks like Gang had himself a lot of vision in the enemy red side jungle, but they just didn't track them well enough. It's kind of a basic mistake. Seros had flash here. He could have flashed out, chooses not to. He puts down his ult turret instead. Doesn't get any chance to spam out abilities and get that beam coming through. The turnaround damage isn't there. Heimerdinger goes down. Good showing from CGA there, at least.
Yeah, nicely finding their way past vision. You could see a number of on-the-way pings there from all of the DFM members. Yeah. They were just too late because CGA were already there, and they do get that kill pretty cleanly, honestly. Gango, though, with no flash as well, after the end of a little Tempered Fate trade from Gang, which was going to buy them a little bit of space around this dragon as well. There is no vision for CGA, and with the resets that have come through, it will be a free Drake here for DFM. It's already up on the scoreboard, guys. It's not that there's a random second Mountain Drake out without a Drake of another variety around for the soul.
Just a bit trigger happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Cloud Drift. Okay, so Cloud Drift at least is not really a win condition from DFM. Seros likes it, actually. Heimerdinger, because he has no mobility himself, likes the extra base move speed.
Volibear and Trundle aren't bad with it, I
And
guess.
Volibear and Trundle are also not awful with it, but it's still not a game-ending objective. Arya now looking to be punished by
There we
DFM.
go. They're going in. They're going to force a teleport out and the shuffle away. Steel walks away, having taken a bit of damage. That's a great timing on that grenade there that puts Nap in a bit of a difficult space. They summoned the Herald in mid, but there is no wave, and it's actually summoned awkwardly in the opposite direction. They'll still get the charge off, and we'll get 2 plates for it.
Very close, but I think all of that gold goes to Steel, not to Saros, who was not in range to get that. I think
Thought
that
he was, but I will take your word for it. I thought I saw gold going to him as well.
I think because the camera focused over on Steel as well, I think potentially they were trying to... okay, no, so production saw it as well. It's just me. Turns out you don't need eyes to be a color caster.
No, you don't.
And it strikes again. Ebby is continuing to wail on the top lane, has himself a 20 CS lead of note, although that's going to be reduced as this wave gets picked up by Nap under tower. Ebby really being left on this island, and we know that Nap is good on the weak side of the map. He's not been punished. He's still going to be relevant. The question is whether Nap will return to his winning ways on the Ornn, because he's been the best Ornn in the league. He's going for a shuffle.
That is onto Seros, but remember, there's still the flash. Steel is around. That's a fantastic stun, and now Ari has to get away, but he dies. He's gone down, and this time Seros flashes the solar flare. Call of the Forge God is coming through. Ebby manages to get out over the back, but Seros still in trouble and will eventually fall. It has to be a flash ignite that claims his life, though, and CGA will eventually go 1 for 1, but they had to burn practically everything in the kitchen sink to get it.
So close to being a really good play for CGA, but some unfortunate timings effectively on this. Unica not charging up his Hex Flash in advance means that Arya goes for the play, Unica is not there to respond, and Arya is caught alone between the Heimerdinger and his turrets. A stun lands, those beams come out, and he takes all of his HP bar and goes down. At least they managed to recover with, of course, Nap teleporting in, has his Call of the Forge God, roams down and gets that kill in return. Both mid laners fall, but still so close for CJ to be able to problem solve their way into a winning mid lane situation, but instead turns very even.
Let's go over this replay. You can see Steel's there as well. This is the 2v2 they were all waiting for.
This is the thing, right? Look at that Hex Flash. It's like 2 seconds too late. If it's immediately there and you stun Seros in, he can't drop the stun and get those extra abilities out. That's what happened in the first play in mid lane. Seros couldn't get those beams coming out because the only way you get those is by hitting your basic abilities whilst also having your turrets down. He does get it that time though, and you can see the damage which comes out. Has himself a Ludens now. The next time that happens, it is going to be a full one-shot.
Oh yes, and that was Call of the Forge God, Solar Flare, Moonlight Vigil, Showstopper, and Emperor's Divide there used to kill Seros. They had to use every single bloody ultimate.
Hashtag worse. So you get, okay, at least you get Heimerdinger's ult, you also get Ebby's ult, and Steel ulting too. So at least that's 3 for a 5 trade. Plates though, that is, oh my word, they don't even get the gold from the one plate they took top.
Yeah, that is a lot of that gold lead the DFM has just off plates. They get the 3 in mid, 2 in top, 1 in bot, and it will be no contest for this second Herald. DFM weren't set up for it, and instead it will be a swift pickup for CGA. They're going to try and find Ebby, but the knockup wasn't found, and Ebby thundering smashes his way into an engage, but it's still pretty damn tanky. That Sky Split was well timed. Now Grendel actually has to go golden because he was taking aggro. Steel's in trouble on the other side though, and does fall down, was on the rotation, but get caught out doing it. Ebby's going to walk away from this turret, and the Herald will get spawned. Nice stuff from CGA there.
They managed to catch out Steel, who was trying to protect Ebby a few seconds earlier from Nap. If that play had happened a few seconds later, Nap would have had Call of the Forge God to maybe force out the flash or kill Ebby. That's a Bard ultimate to stop the push onto top lane turret, but of course, or at least stop the charge from the Herald, the first one at full HP. Seros though, we talked about this. He goes to a side lane, he gets himself a full turret on the bot lane, and he gets himself another wave shoved in bot lane, which is again increasing this gold lead for DFM. It's now sat at about 3,000 gold there if I look at it. And this is largely because not just the towers, but that, again, as we said in when we talk about Heimerdinger's, Saros' Heimerdinger, he just farms waves very efficiently, where CAG are clumping up and missing out some waves in side lanes.
It's not just that as well, remember, all that while, Utapon got mid-turret as well. So it is a 2 for 1 trade. It's the mid-lane turret that's gone as well. And yeah, they get the kill onto Steel, and that's great news. Little bit greedy going for that rotation to come and help up Ebby. I can see the light in your eyes when Grendel's had to go golden, has no flash, he's got no HP. All of that's great news, but it wasn't a fantastic rotation, I think it's fair to say. Having said that, DFM do trade pretty heavily across the
Well,
map.
this is
So
the
they're
thing,
very
right?
happy
If they
to
get
do it.
Ebby and they can push in topside for 2 turrets, that becomes very, very good. It's the same thing with the last play. If Arya doesn't die there, they can push in for the mid turret themselves, and of course they have that 5 versus 4 available. It's just small things not going quite well for CGA. It's better than the last game though, when they lost against Axis. They are at least being they're being granted some of the plays which they love to make. Arya's caught out now.
Oh, he has got to shuffle away, and that will be DFM wrestling control back of the entrance to the river there, which was formerly CGA's, and DFM
The
will get a chance to
artist
set up.
formerly known as CGA's jungle.
The artillery, yeah. I think this time it was the river. There's a ward in the Dragon Pit for both teams. But DFM looking to try and get control over the mid. They do have advantage for that because they have got the mid turret down. Remember, there is, however, the Azir Sun Disc, which can buy some time. But that is a fabulous Tempered Fate. CJ will go for the Call of the Forge God, though, and now Gang is taken pretty low. But in the back end, Ebby is a monster. He gets 2 with the help of Steel. And now CGA, yeah, you said they looked for fights. They didn't want that one, as Nap has to flash out. That's a Moonlight Vigil, but it's a little late, and Gang is still alive. So is Steel. The Haymaker misses. Steel finally falls. That's the jungler dead, but Ebby is a monster and finds another 2 at the end of it. It's an ace for 1 in fairness, in favor, rather, of DFM, and they will get to move over to the Dragon, 7-4 in kills, and they are 5,000 gold in the lead.
We asked whether DFM would deny CJ the team fights or just outplay them in them. Well, they outplay them there. We're going to go back into the replay, see how this starts. Watch what happens to Gango's HP bar. Single W procs, that's the Luden's there as well. Gango on that chunk decides he needs to fall back under turret and lifesteal under wave. What this means is that CJ should be backing off. We saw Arya using his E to get out of that first pillar, but then he's left alone. If Gango is here for the turnaround immediately, maybe they can team fight their way out of it, because that was a really good call of the Forge God once more. It's not enough this time. He does end up flashing in later after Unica comes in. You see the Infernum there. Gang has to flash out, and he's so close to picking up multiple people. At least he gets the 1, but when you've got a whole team ace for just 1 kill, it is absolutely worth it for DFM.
And Arya got Emperor's Divide off as he was stunned.
And that's the thing.
And it meant that he got popped by that grenade that then turned into a Volibear ult on top of him, and he got to do nothing in that fight.
The Volibear just ults over the wall. He's unstoppable. It doesn't actually matter. The Azir ult does deny dashes, but not when you are unstoppable. Arya's finding it really hard to team fight in this game, and given how many times he has died and the players have turned against him in a way which we really don't characterize of this guy. Normally, he just makes the plays work for him. Now he's been left in an even worse situation, having to run away from Ebby.
He's going to have to run away, but he's going to get Tempered Fated, and that forces a flash out of this Azir, and DFM will roam back over to this Baron which has spawned. They have got this Heimerdinger at 2 items, remember. It is a fantastic Baron taking champion, and it will force CJ to come in. But Unica is caught in no man's land. He's got no HP, but Arya is finally here, but it's too late. The jungler is dead. The Call of the Forge God, just a calling card. It's not even that. It's a brief farewell missive to their dead jungler, and DFM will roam back into mid and look to clear out this wave. But CGA in a 4 versus 5, what are you going to be able to pull off? Grendel's already on about 10% HP as well, and DFM could just run back to the Baron and pull that all over again.
These Trundle pillars have been so disgusting from DFM. The Bard ultimate's coming out as well. Now with that Cloud Dragon on top of it, taken at the end of that ace when Heimerdinger went down to solo that, means that they are up all the more often. They're forcing out flashes, mobility spells, things that they need for the fights. DFM are taking control of the map and the team fights. CGA will need to find themselves a miracle fight, but it doesn't start with a split team getting punished.
And I have to say, this is CJ looking a little out of sorts. Arya's been quiet to being caught out a little bit.
Do you know what? What's even more scary to me? I don't think this is CJ out of sorts. I think this is DFM playing very well.
Well, there you have it.
You heard it from the DFM not-so-apologist himself. I think that DFM are punishing CJ with all the tools they have.
No,
Ebby! Look at
Ebby!
this again.
Oh, he just jumps the wall. The Emperor's Divine means nothing to the bear, and it'll be another sword in the back. Thousands of eyes looked on as Arya falls for the 3rd time this game, caught out in the side lane.
DFM have forced CJ into a desperation mode. They are here thinking, well, okay, we need to pick up farm and get to 2-3 items on the Azir. The same with the fellows, who stopped off for 3 crit cloaks, by the way, to up his crit damage, which is not potentially the most efficient build, but very, very good for your short-term burst. DFM are always in position to punish people. We saw how Sengoku fell down to Hoglet playing the volley bear and just perma-ganking something which could be abused when trying to farm, like the Victor. It's happening here. It's not in the same roles. It is that top lane volley bear.
Desperation
CJ,
Baron.
Desperation Baron. It's either the farm, it's either the Baron. They have to find a way into this game.
There's Tempered Fate available, there is ults available for everybody but Ebby's just shoving in the bot side. He's got teleport, and they're just saying, we can buy all the time. We have got a Heimerdinger and an Ezreal and a Tempered Fate. You need to force this engage or look to lose. Steel's now in a bit of a difficult position, but he's now got the subjugate.
Look at the turrets!
He's so tanky, and the turrets are doing horrific amounts of damage. That's a Tempered Fate that had to get sidestep. Unicorn is caught out, and Utapon finds a mother of all true shot barrages and misses the Empress Divide. Arya falls. He's dead. Ebby's here, and it's looking like another ace for DFM. They've got an open inhibitor on the bot side, and there's everybody dead. They're teleporting into End Nightmare.
They are, with everybody dead from CGA. This is DFM making a statement. Haven't won against one of the top teams in the LJL this split. They do not care. They're looking for their 2-0 week.
They are looking for 2-0. They are looking to push further up the standings. They are looking to say that while we may have stumbled, we have not fallen. V3, Sengoku Gaming, CGA, be afraid the top 4 ain't safe.
They are not safe, and neither was any member of the CGA team, a team we've come to expect so much from. We'll have a little bit more of a conversation about that, though, after this quick break.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the desk. One here, initialized Nightmare there. We just witnessed Detonation FocusMe pick up their second win, which feels like a while since I've said that in a week for DFM, and especially versus Crest Gaming Act, the first time they've been able to win against one of the top teams this split. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts about this game? Let's talk about that pick and ban phase first and foremost, right?
5 mid-bans.
5 mid-bans. And we do always ask, and one of the things we say about
And Blue Side Karma!
Blue Side Karma is a really big thing.
Yeah.
I really don't appreciate that. I don't mind banging out.
Yeah, sure, I'm seeing it. So
I
there's
don't
been
mind
more
that,
mid-bans, more I was getting at there as well.
But given that there are 5 mid-bans towards Arya, we do always think this guy has this limitless champion pool who can go towards pretty much anything. He goes towards something which is punishable, though, and DFM punish it very hard.
I mean, as well, especially when it's like against a Heimerdinger, like Sirius plays a Heimerdinger. Why would you play a champion that can get punished by a champion you haven't banned yourself? Like, slightly.
It's the 1v1 matchup because remember again, as we said with the Isaiah Heimerdinger matchup, we saw in the finals from Pyrian against DFM. You can do stuff there. And they did get a play onto him, but when the whole team is looking to hammer down on that Isaiah, it doesn't look so good.
Yeah, and the
doesn't matter.
Times they did manage to get onto Seros, like the second time they got onto him, they burned every single damn ultimate and still went 1-for-1. Like that is a difficult space to be in, and it was also just things like the rocket barrages coming out of Heimerdinger were consistently catching Arya. He was always down to about 1/3 HP. That gave DFM, while the early game was not all that exciting, it gave them a lot of pressure in River for the Trundle to go and take early Drakes. And we've always had this question about CG, what do you do if Arya is not winning his lane? And he wasn't winning his lane. He was down 10 CS, he was sort of kept under tower, he's having to shuffle away quite a lot. CJ looked a little bit out of sorts as a result of that.
Yeah, this was a very quiet game, and in all fairness, this favored DFM. There was only 2 kills and 2 Drakes in favor of DFM, but the 2 kill mark by the 12-minute mark is. Are we sure we were watching a CGA game here? I wasn't used to this. I'm so used to about 10 kills already by the 15-minute mark. I'm like, yeah, this is a CGA game.
I think a lot of it was the fact that DFM were pushing in all 3 lanes. We saw Steel come over for a Raptor steal and then go take a Scuttle Crab as well. So Steel was ahead of Unica. Unica had a plethora of options to gank, didn't really find anything which stuck, however, and that's what limited CGA's ability to really fight around a lot of this early game.
Like, kind of tying in on that as well. Like, you saw him turn up mid a few times, but Steel was there both to 3 times that they tried it mid. And it kind of made things quite tricky when it's like, okay, we want to turn this around, use the shuffle onto the immobile Heimerdinger. That all seems fine, but when you're getting it turned around on you, that becomes a bit more of a question mark.
Yeah, it can definitely become a big question. I mean, gentlemen, we're saying DFM had the advantage going into a lot of scenarios, lots of fights. In the first, there were only a few fights that actually occurred throughout this whole game. That first big one, though, was when DFM were actually able to ace CGA, and they only lost 1 member throughout this whole encounter. Who wants to cover it?
I have a pretty solid memory of it. I remember covering the replay too. A lot of it starts off as something we talked about as soon as the competitions came in, with this Aphelios versus the Heimerdinger in particular. Long-range magic damage dealers can really hold Aphelios to account. It's a single W with a Ludens proc, and that gets the comment on top of it too, which takes Aphelios down to about half HP, or maybe just over that. Gango goes back, wraps around the Raptor pit to start trying to go hit the farm to get some of his base lifesteal and try and heal himself up so they can fight. During that window where Gango is away from the team, they get a wonderful, just a picture-perfect gang ult from that bard, the Tempered Fate. It locks up so many people, and the fight is started without the Aphelios nearby. I think that CJ could have won that fight if the Aphelios was in there, even at their gold disadvantage. That's normally what we see from CJ, in fact. But DFM see the opportunity, see CJ split, and they do actually out-team fight them.
Yeah, and I think a little bit on that as well is you're getting to see why Volibear is picked into his ear. The grenade stun lands onto Arya, who's then taken very low. He throws out the Emperor's Divide as it happening. Emperor's Divide is great against dashes. Volibear's ult is not a dash. He's unstoppable. He goes straight over it. And he jumps over that Emperor's Divide that is supposed to buy space, and it does nothing. Arya gets eviscerated by the Volibear, who then gets to run rampant at the back of the fight with one of your DPS dead, and the Aphelios not there and set up. you're kind of in deep trouble already.
Yeah, and moving from there, DFM just had the advantage. They pushed around. They were able to secure another Drake amongst this time. However, the next big fight was actually the determining factor truly through it. There were a few skirmishes. There was the top with the Herald, and Zeros was down there pushing bot lane. They got the turret. They ended up trading a kill for top turret, but they got outer turrets. And DFM were never fully losing anything around the map. They might have lost a minor advantage, but it's negligible. The next big one, though, was that Baron fight, wasn't it, Initialize? Or that Baron dance. It wasn't even a fight. It was just a dance around the pit while Ebby just was doing Ebby things, I guess?
Yeah, it was. And DFM had set up around the Baron a little bit beforehand for CGA to come to them, and they lost a couple kills doing that. Ebby then gets to shove for free, and then at which point DFM reset and CGA go, if we don't try and take Baron now, we are done. So they tried to rush it, and in the 4 versus 5, when you are versus the Tempered Fate versus Ezreal and Heimerdinger, who gets to set up turrets, when you are already behind, it is a nightmare, because they just get to poke you out, they start the fight, then Evie teleports him in, he gets the flank, and Arya once again is eviscerated. He goes for the shuffle onto Utapon, who just arcane shifts it. And then there's an exhaust down onto Arya as well, and again the Azir is caught in no man's land, having gone for a shuffle, and just dies for his trouble.
Evisceration Nation is the play. Eviscerate's also a very good magic card, may I add.
The ex-Magic Pro throwing that out there.
Oh, I gotta. With the recent clip that came out, which was circulating throughout the internet, I've got to represent the game that I dedicated 4 years of my life to no more. But a game that I've dedicated, I guess, no, actually nowhere near as much. Crest Gaming Act will be facing off against Sengoku Gaming. Gentlemen, this is going to raise questions going into this match. We're going to be having questions regarding CGA and their potential. We're going to be having questions regarding Sengoku, as they were another team that also lost access in Super Week. But to actually know our full thoughts, though, you're going to have to hang around, because we've got a quick break we're going to go on, and we'll be back in a moment.